Okay, everyone. Well, welcome to today's presentation hosted by FX Street. As always, FX Street, thanks very much for having me. Today, we're going to talk about a few different things, primarily Bitcoin. We're also going to talk about a couple of other things, and also what's going on in the landscape at the moment, because there's a lot going on, as I think everyone is well aware of. So if we have a quick look at the agenda, we'll talk about initially, what the hell is going on, because there's a lot going on. We're going to also touch upon how what is currently happening is affecting the macro trends. We're seeing some things occur, and this is due to the insecurity that's currently kind of affecting most of the countries of the world. I'm going to have a couple of looks at some things that I'm looking at. And again, this is not investment advice. This is just me going over some ideas. Then we'll have a look at some charts, and we'll have a look at Bitcoin and some other things that I think are quite interesting. And then if there's any questions, and we can grab these at the end of the presentation today. And so, what is going on? This is a really good question. All that we know as the general public is that a virus mysteriously appeared out of the blue and spread across the globe in very, very short order. We've been beaten over the head in the media regarding this virus and how dangerous it is. And so I think a lot of people are quite fearful in the world. Initially, I think a lot of people were quite fearful. I think the novelty has worn off now and people are less fearful, but still people are pretty uncertain, because if you start scratching the surface a little bit and you dare to go down a rabbit hole and try and figure out what's going on behind the scenes, there are a lot of pretty scary scenarios that I think are powerful enough and frightening enough to shake most people. And this is introducing an enormous amount of uncertainty in the market. People are becoming perhaps a little bit more risk aversion. They're looking for places to put cash if they have cash. And so there's an enormous amount of uncertainty regarding inflation. And I say this because of what's going on with many of the central banks, is they're trying to stimulate the economy. And so in order to do so, they are printing money and they're trying to give it away for free, either via very, very cheap loans or via what's known as helicopter money, where they simply put money in the pockets of the citizens of the country in an attempt to get them to spend it. And this is, of course, an attempt to stimulate the economy, to support the economy, because people are going to start, quote unquote, consuming again. Okay, and so this is creating a lot of uncertainty as well. The reason being is when people print money, the supply increases, and typically when the supply of something increases, the value of it decreases. And so this is quite unnerving. Okay, and so the macro trends that I think that we're seeing as a result of what's going on, keep the chat open here, good, is we're seeing another rush into crypto. Okay, we've seen an enormous push in crypto the past month, 2 months, and this is quite interesting, because I think the motivations for people moving funds into crypto, indeed, very turbulent times. It's different this time. It's fueled not only by speculation, but more by uncertainty. People have no idea what the hell's going on. They don't know if they can trust the banks anymore. They don't know if they can trust their governments. And so people are really frantically trying to find a place to put, to store value. And historically, gold has been a very good store of value, because if you go back to the gold standard, every printed dollar could be swapped for an equivalent amount of gold. And that's not the case anymore. But there is still a perceived value of gold and other precious metals and precious stones. Okay, but the problem with these is they're really difficult to move. If I want to send a gold bar to my mother, I have to, of course, pay to send a gold bar to my mother, and that's quite expensive because gold bars are generally pretty heavy. Also, I have to worry about somebody stealing them. I have to maybe pay for insurance, so if in case they do get stolen, then I get some kind of compensation. There are many uncertainties regarding transporting gold. But crypto, on the other hand, and there's absolutely zero trouble moving crypto around. I simply copy my mother's wallet address, and I send the money that she wants or needs to her wallet, and she has it within an hour. So it's very, very easy. Also, what do you do with gold, where do you keep gold? Do you keep it in your mattress? Do you put it under the floorboards, or do you bury it in the garden? I know a gentleman who's been collecting silver and gold coins for about almost 3 years. And I'm always asking him, where are you keeping your gold and your silver coins? Not because I want to rob him, but I'm just really interested in knowing where he's keeping these assets. And he's been talking about this folding of the international economy for several times. And this chap, he's a director for one of the biggest banks in Asia. And so this made me nervous. Obviously, he represents establishment, and he was hoarding enormous quantities of silver and gold. And he was keeping it in a store Far East. And so you think like, well, can you trust the people who you give your gold to give it back to you when you want it? And so yeah, it's very, very difficult. And typically, if you want to store crypto, for example, you buy crypto, you move it to your wallet, you back up your wallet via that secret phrase, which is typically, I don't know, like a series of words, and then you can restore that at any given time. You can take the backup phrase, you can put it on a piece of paper, you can put it in your safe, you can encrypt it, you can email it to yourself, you can put it in your cloud storage on a USB, you can get it printed on a t-shirt, whatever you like. You can create multiple backups of your crypto. So let's say your house burns down and you lose your backup in the safe. Well, that doesn't matter because you have it on your t-shirt or in the cloud. Okay, but gold is different. You can't do that. You can't create multiple simultaneous backups of your gold. If I bury it in my garden and someone digs it up, I can't go to my safe and find my gold. My gold is gone. And so storing traditional assets such as gold commodities is very, very difficult. In crypto, it's very, very easy. And this, again, makes crypto a very interesting and attractive asset. We've also seen an enormous increase in speculation. Okay, if you consider what the CEO of Goldman Sachs said several years ago, he said that if I catch any of my traders buying Bitcoin, I'll sack them on the spot. Okay, so he was very against the crypto space. He was very against Bitcoin and everything that it represented, because Bitcoin is dirty. It's used for money laundering and buying drugs and ordering hits and stuff like that, which it clearly isn't. It's not only that anymore. It used to be because of the Silk Road. It used to be, I think the Silk Road was one of the initial utilities of Bitcoin that really gave Bitcoin traction, but it's far more than that today. And so institutions are acknowledging this, and they're saying, okay, maybe we should start taking Bitcoin serious. It's not going anywhere. A lot of people are starting to pile into Bitcoin and other crypto assets. It's time to get into it. And another beautiful thing about crypto assets such as Bitcoin is that supply is limited. And this is the key, because the American dollar or the euro or the Japanese yen, whatever currency you have, the supply is not limited. As we're seeing in the US at the moment, QE infinity means that we'll continue to create supply of dollars in order to stimulate and support the economy. The Federal Reserve has even gone as far as to begin to buy stocks to support the economy. I mean, this is completely ludicrous, out of control behavior on the part of the central bank. And so this is very, very concerning. So if I'm holding American dollars, let's say I have 100 American dollars in my hand, but in the back of my mind, I know that the Fed is printing trillions of American dollars every month. I mean, how does that make me feel about the value of my $100 in my hand? It makes me feel like that they're going to be reduced in value and eaten up by inflation. You can't do that with crypto assets. Okay, the 21 million Bitcoins, once they have left, once they've been distributed, that's it. They're gone forever. And that makes this, again, a very attractive asset. Similar to gold, I mean, there is a finite amount of gold on the planet. Obviously, there's plenty that's still in the ground, but there is also a lot that is in circulation. And you can't just create gold out of thin air. I mean, you have to mine it, and mining it is very expensive. And so this obviously is helping to keep the supply of gold down, which increases the value of it. We have, look here, we have more trends, and that is DeFi, which stands for decentralized finance. Decentralized finance is a very, very attractive utility and concept, in contrast to CeFi, which is centralized finance. And as we can see, At the moment, via quantitative easing, infinity, like we're seeing in the US, if you consider how irresponsible a central bank can be in relation to its currency, I mean, how can we trust it to issue an e-token or an e-dollar or a e-euro or e-krona or whatever when they're doing the things that they're doing today? It's very, very frightening. And so decentralized finance takes the power out of one entity and it gives it to everybody who is participating. Okay, and so, for example, if a country in the world said, we don't like Bitcoin, we want to make Bitcoin illegal, I mean, how are they going to do that? I mean, they can't do that. It's completely impossible for them to do because they will essentially have to shut down every user's computer who is using it, which you can't do. This is not possible. Because of the decentralized nature, you can neither manipulate the blockchain. Okay, I can't make fraudulent attempts to move huge numbers of Bitcoins into my wallet because I have to ensure that the transactions are verified by at least 50% of the other people on the blockchain. And so it makes it very, very difficult to commit fraud on the blockchain. And people have obviously, I mean, we're losing faith in governments. I'm very quickly losing faith in governments. What's going on in the United States of America? The sacred democratic process has been compromised, and we're starting to see kind of traces of this come to the surface in the mainstream media. I mean, this is absolutely horrifying. I mean, how can we trust a government with our money when they're committing fraud in the election? This is very, very concerning. And I think a lot of people are starting to notice what's going on, and they're starting to ask these very important questions that need to be asked. Okay, so what am I currently looking at? Well, obviously I'm looking at Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is an interesting asset. Why? Well, it was the first cryptocurrency. It has high liquidity. There's limited supply. There's obviously enormous demand for Bitcoin. And so this could be a very interesting asset to acquire over the longer term. Additionally, it is not troubled by inflation because you cannot create more Bitcoins. And so this could also be used as an instrument for hedging against inflation. So Bitcoin is a very attractive asset. We have Ethereum as well, and we have another one which is called UTK, which is essentially a token issued by a startup that I'll cover in just 1 minute. But let's just look at a Bitcoin initially. The great thing about, I mean, being a software engineer, I like software. One thing that makes me a little bit nervous, I'll tell you a story. Several years ago, I used to work in a security research department for a company who used to analyze software updates that were released. Most of the people who had released software updates would simply update their software. They didn't tell us what they updated. They didn't give us a source code to review. They simply issued an update. And so what we had to do was essentially we would have to compare the assembler code from the update to the assembler code of the existing piece of software. And then we could perform a diff, and then we could find out what they were doing. And we found out that they were sneaking, most cases, they were sneaking security updates into a major update. And they would try to do this they would try to roll these secret updates out with major updates in order to try and hide them. But when you have something that's open source, you can't do this because all the mistakes are there and everyone can look at them. If there's a vulnerability, someone commits a report about the vulnerability and then an update has to be created. Okay, this is a very good thing. So open source software is very, very good. It's decentralized, as we spoke about, which means no single entity can control it or shut it down. And if you use it properly and carefully, you can actually achieve very high degrees of anonymity and privacy, which is good. And of course, Bitcoin is a lot easier to store than physical gold, as we also discussed earlier on. So let's have a look at Bitcoin on a chart. Yeah, me too. Me too. Let's see, if we have a look at Bitcoin here. Okay, now you can see it super. Sorry about that. That was a bit of a pain. But what I was talking about, just looking at the Bitcoin chart and how price came from very small prices to the peak that we saw in 17, how we gave back all those, or pretty much all of those gains, and how price is doing what we can expect it to do, and that is return to the origin of the move. This huge price surge here originated from this area of demand. Price came down to it and we went up. Okay, so this huge price surge came from this place here. Okay, this area of demand just in here. Price tested it. This is one I talked about half a year ago or so, where we talked about price returning back to this place just here. Price poked into it and now we're moving north. And so the question is, I mean, where do we get in? Do we buy it? Do we not buy it? And obviously, I mean, I'm strong. I think that Bitcoin is going to continue to increase in value, but right now price is high. So I mean, you have, if you bought now, there would be a high likelihood that the price would retrace in order to attract people, attract buyers before it continues higher. Okay, but yeah, it depends also how long you're going to hold it for. If you're going to hold it for 10 years, then it doesn't really matter when you're going to get in. Just get in. But if you want a good price, you're a little bit patient, you think price is going to pull back, well, obviously it's a good idea to wait. Okay, and if we look on the daily chart, I mean, there are some very attractive areas. Okay, we have a couple of price points. We've got this one here, which is interesting. We have this one down here, which is interesting as well. So these are pretty nice price points. And then below that, we've got this one. This is kind of the origin. It's kind of the origin of it. Price came up, the slingshot was pulled back, we left, we went up, the slingshot was pulled back to here. So for this area of daily demand, this is the beginning of the buy zone. For this area of demand, the buy zone is right here. Okay, or maybe even the low of this candle just here. Let's put it down here, this is better. Okay, and this one here is responsible for moving this, and this one here is responsible for moving the micro demand that we had here, which was tested several times and then removed. And so this is probably an interesting place that we could expect to buy Bitcoin. So if price comes back down to here, it's a decent price. If price manages to come down here, I mean, obviously that's a better price because it's cheaper. Okay, let me share my slides again. Got that one. Unshare. Okay, can you guys see my slides again? Yeah, a very nice movement. Okay, let's have a look at let's talk about Ethereum, which is another technology that I'm quite fascinated by. Again, it's global, open sourced. It's being used for decentralized applications, including decentralized financial applications. Very good anonymity and privacy when used properly. And there are thousands of projects that are basing themselves on the Ethereum, the Ethereum blockchain. So this is really, really fascinating. Ethereum is going nowhere because it's so widely used and so many people are using it. So the ecosystem of Ethereum is huge and it's growing every day. It's a phenomenal piece of technology. Okay, one of those projects is this one here. There was a startup or an ICO back in 2017 that really got me interested, and it was called Utrust. And Utrust is essentially, it's a crypto payment gateway solution. It enables you to trade fiat to crypto or crypto to crypto in pretty much any direction, and the fees are very, very low. And it's based on the Ethereum blockchain. It's the UTK token, which is the one which the symbol is here. I think it's, if you, depends what it's traded against, but UTK USD, when traded against the American dollar. You can see it on where can you see it? Binance, I think you can see it, and Bitfinex. You can trade it there, and it's a remarkable solution. There are a lot of really cool functionalities built into it that I really like. And the cool thing, the reason I got interested in this in 2017 was because that the team was great, and they thought that, I mean, the fees that you're paying with PayPal, I mean, it's very expensive. I think on an average, you're paying around 2.6%, but I've seen fees go up as far as 4.6%. I mean, those are pretty staggering, pretty hefty fees. So I'd prefer not to have to pay those. And the UTK or the Utrust platform, but payment gateway is much cheaper at 1%. And the team is great and they have amazing tech and they're developing all the time. And I read the paper back in 2017, and I followed along with all of the milestones that they had, and they met most of them, if not all of them. And today, it's a very healthy company. The price of their asset is increasing, and the tech is public. I'm using it on my website, and there are many other people who are using it. There's also tremendous integration with web shops like WooCommerce and Magneto and many of the other major players on the market. So it's a really cool piece of tech. And the best thing about it is, if you look at the price chart, it's still really, really cheap. It's 14, 15 cents per token. And this is after the rally that we saw yesterday. Okay, so it's a really interesting piece of tech. And if we have a look at this chart here just for a second, this is back here. This is the pre-ICO. Okay, then we had the ICO somewhere around here, and then it was listed on the exchange. Price gapped up. This was the opening price. Then price gravitated to fair value, and we have this price structure that looks kind of like a pair of bum cheeks. And price came down, and you can see how price came up to this area here, then it left. We came back up to it, and then we left. And so the fact that price is turning around at this price point here and here is telling us that we have supply. We have keen interest on keeping price below that price point. Okay, so someone is getting involved at that price point. And then what we see here is we see price leave the lows. Okay, this is very low price. Price rallies. We accumulate, we rally, we accumulate, and then we have this huge push high up to about 39.4 cents. And the beginning of this rally starts at the low of this candle here. Okay, price touches it. Here we see some rejection. Now price continues to wriggle lower. So now we're actually moving beyond the buy zone, which is the low of this candle here. Excuse me. And now we're slowly trying to advertise cheap prices to get people involved in buying the UTK American dollar. And it's digging deeper, as you can see here. We have another interesting price point here. We have another one here. But currently, price is having a difficult time moving below this. I haven't actually looked at this today, but this is what we're currently seeing. Price move lower, kind of like we see like the slingshot being pulled back, even deeper. And then, yeah, we'll see. Maybe this is has continued to rally today, or maybe it's stabilizing, looking to rally later. So for the time being, this is where it is, and it's really cheap, in 15 cents, about 15 cents a token. So you get yourself a handful of those for a very, very limited amount of money. So those are the things that I'm looking at. There are loads and loads of Ethereum projects that I think are fascinating, but also it's very important that you do due diligence when analyzing these projects to find out if they are actually creating tech that's useful. A lot of them were pulled out, were washed out shortly after the initial the ICO blast that we saw a year or two ago, and now things are slowly quietening down. A lot of the initial projects, they maybe ran out of investment capital, and so development had to stop. But the ones who actually had a utility and had like a viable product, these are still living, and they're living very well. And Utrust is one of those that I have high expectations for. All right, we're going to go to, we've been rambling for about half an hour now. We're going to jump over here and see if there are any questions that we can have a look at. So I'm just going to open up the floor to you guys. If you have any questions about anything, if you want me to have a look at something, a price chart of something, let me know. I'd be thrilled to do so. But I think it's interesting as well to see how many people have started to get involved in crypto again. And as I mentioned, I think the motivation for doing so this time around is much different than it was in 2017. What about you guys? Is anyone here invested in the crypto space? And if so, what kind of stuff are you guys investing in? Are there any particular projects? Or is there any specific tech that you guys find fascinating? There's certainly a lot of different ones to choose from. There's an enormous amount to choose from. So I'm going to have a quick look at Ethereum. Can you guys see my chart here? think you probably can. I'm just going to jump over to Ethereum. See, Ethereum here, this is the backbone of many of the projects out there. Now, okay, good. Thanks, Albert. So you can see that we had the 17 explosion. We gave back all of the gains almost, and price came almost back down to the origin of that move. And now we kind of went higher, we pushed higher, we came back to the origin, we moved higher. And now you can see that we are kind of drifting sideways. We do have an upward bias, as you can see, because we have the lows moving higher. We have supply being consumed by the opposing side of the market, which is a demand. And so there's very high expectation that price is going to continue to wriggle higher from here. So if we have a look at some potential places here, first of all, before we do anything, we want to find out where we think price is going to go to. And you can see that we had a push lower here, so price fed into this area of demand. This is the beginning of the buy zone, this wick here. Price tested, we moved actually to the lows of this area of demand. Okay, and then price left. So price was not able to move through this and through this from this area here. Okay, so we formed an area of supply. Price, and this is supply because we managed to remove this, and we actually moved below this low as well. So price came down, and the slingshot was pulled back. We returned to this area of supply, and this was where price was able to move down from. Okay, so we have something here that is very interesting. The beginning of the sell zone is here. Okay, so this is where we can expect price to go to. We also have something here which price is currently contending with. I'm just going to mark it up. I won't spend too much time on it, but we have something like this. You can see how price came down, and then the departure came from here. So price went down to this child. We tested it, but this is where price moved through this child and essentially completely removed this parent, this continuation pattern, and this little box of liquidity here. Price came down. Now we're okay, and now we moved up into it. We pulled back. We closed some of these gaps. We're kind of doing the resistance becomes support, and now we're flirting with the highs again. So we go to the daily chart and have a look. I mean, let's see what's going on. Let me zoom out. Okay, so I mean, looking at this, we have a lot of kind of illiquid price movements here. Sorry, flies here. So down to here, which is essentially the area of demand below this, the gap. Price tested it. Now we kept going lower. So we're pulling the slingshot back lower and lower and lower. And then we started to form these higher lows like so. And this is showing us that we are seeing a support for price. And now price is kind of sitting at the edge of this area of daily. So that was weekly supply at the sell zone, which is the high of this candle here. Price goes up. It went down. We didn't go anywhere. This is a candle that left this area of distribution. The slingshot was pulled back to, can't even mark it with that. It was pulled back to the high just here. Okay, so this is where we can expect price to react at. Price is at that area now. You're figuring out what it's going to do, but we don't know exactly what's going to happen. We can just see that we had a period of agreement in price. Maybe it's clear on the monthly. We can see an agreement in price here. Our price we went higher. We tested that. We failed. We came down. We rallied. We moved sideways, and then we moved above this high. So this price push moved away from here. So we have something in here. And if we just go like that, you can see. So this is an interesting place for price to return to and depart from. Okay, but we don't know how soon that will happen, when it'll happen, but it's likely to happen at some point. Whenever you see a price depart like that, this is telling us that we had a very sharp increase in buying from this price window just here. So if price returns back to that, people who did not get in on this move will maybe be considering buying as well. I mean, also we're at about $450 for a single Ethereum coin, and if it comes back down to here, I mean that's like almost half price. So that's a very, very good price for Ethereum. And if you consider the utility for Ethereum, it's absolutely enormous. And so I think that we're certainly going to see the price of Ethereum increase as we continue to see more projects be created, and the value of Ethereum will slowly increase. Okay, let's have a look at one more. This is XRP. And XRP is an interesting piece of kit. We've spoken about this several times in the past. We had, and it was worth nothing down here almost. What was it, 10 cents? What is that? I can't even see. Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, nothing. It's worth nothing. We have the initial rush, price jumps up, accumulation, and then we have the 2017 highs. And here you can see price gives back all of the gains. Okay, so this was, this is remarkable, isn't it? Price goes up to $3.30, and then it comes back down almost to zero. And now it's currently at a quarter per XRP. But you can see as well that we've rallied, we've left this area of price agreement, and now we're accumulating, and now we're starting to paint some blue candles. We don't know what's going to happen. Let's have a look here. Zoom in just a little bit. You can see how we had price poking down into these lows, price rejecting, moving sideways, darting up, gapping north, returning to the origin of these moves to do what? We don't know yet. We have no idea what's going to happen. But due to the fact that we are indeed showing an increase of demand levels below price, this is telling us that we have a support for this instrument, and so we're probably going to see this begin to wriggle higher at some stage. So this could be a very interesting asset to own. I bought lots and lots of these a long time ago at about 13 cents. Where are we? Yeah, so just around here at the lows here. Okay, and I got in before this, and I'm still holding these because I think that, again, the utility of XRP is absolutely remarkable. It is a centralized solution, but it's a remarkable solution. The team is very, very capable, and I think that so many banks are beginning to adopt this this technology that it's just a matter of time before this asset begins to increase. Okay, I'm going to stop rambling. Does anyone have any questions? Everyone's gone quiet there. We've been going for about 40 minutes. Does anyone have any questions? I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to type in your questions. Otherwise, I think we'll wrap it up for the day. Let's see. Okay. Okay, very good. Well, Adinda, should we wrap this up? No one has any questions, and I don't want to keep anyone for longer than necessary. Okay, super good. That's fine. All right, well, we'll wrap it up there then. If you guys have any questions about anything and you want to get you want to send something to me, let me send this to you here. Here's my email address. Pipnotic.com. There's my email. You guys are free to write to me and ask me any questions. And if you guys want to, we have like a chat room with about 300 guys in there, and it's all free. If you guys want to go in there, let me create a link quick. You guys can jump in. Of course, it's a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. Let me see if I can. Okay, here it is. Just let me chuck in a link, and you guys can jump into my Discord channel. Invites. Okay, here. Where are we? Okay, here is, sorry. Create an invite. Okay, here. You guys can jump in there. We've got a bunch of really cool people in there, and it's all about trading, and we have a lot of fun in there. So you should have a good time there. It's a lot of fun. Very safe environment where people talk about trading all the time. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, F8 Street.